Marcus Chen wiped the sweat from his forehead as he guided his cargo ship, the Star Wanderer, toward the dimly lit space station. The station hung like a dark spider in space, its metal arms stretching out into the darkness. Something about this place made his skin crawl, but a job was a job, and the payment was too good to pass up. Docking permission granted. Bay 14. A scratchy voice came through his radio. Marcus adjusted his course, carefully moving his ship into position. After 5 years of flying cargo runs, docking was as natural as breathing to him. The station wasn't on any major trade routes, which was strange for a place that claimed to be a supply depot. As his ship locked into place with a gentle thud, Marcus ran through his mental checklist. The cargo manifest said he was delivering basic medical supplies, nothing special. He grabbed his tablet and headed for the airlock. The station's air had a metallic taste that he noticed as soon as he stepped through. The corridors were poorly lit, with flickering lights that cast strange shadows on the walls. A few rough-looking spacers passed him, giving him cold stares that he ignored. Following the directions on his tablet, Marcus turned down a narrow corridor. That's when he heard it, a soft whimper coming from behind a half-open door. He knew he should mind his own business. Cargo pilots who stuck their noses where they didn't belong often disappeared in these outer regions of space, but something made him stop. Peering through the gap, his heart almost stopped. In the dim room, several beings sat in small cells. Most were species he recognized from his travels, but one caught his eye immediately. She was a celestial, a race known throughout the galaxy for their beautiful, glowing skin that pulsed with different colors based on their emotions. But this one's light was so dim she was almost dark. She sat in the corner of her cell, her long silver hair falling around her face like a curtain. Even in the poor light, Marcus could see the bruises on her arms. Her once beautiful skin, which should have been shimmering with colors, was now a dull gray. "Hey, what are you doing here?" a rough voice shouted. Marcus spun around, his heart racing. A large man with a scared face stood at the end of the corridor, hand resting on his weapon. "Sorry," Marcus said quickly, holding up his tablet. "Looking for Bay 12 for my delivery. Must have taken a wrong turn." The man's eyes narrowed. "Bay 12 is in the other direction. Get moving." Marcus nodded, forcing himself to walk away slowly even though every instinct told him to run. His mind was racing. He'd heard rumors about slave trading in the outer systems, but he'd never seen it firsthand. The image of the celestial woman's dimmed light and bruised arms was burned into his memory. Back in his ship, Marcus sat in his pilot's chair, staring at the station through his viewport. He should complete his delivery, get his payment, and leave. That's what any sensible cargo pilot would do. But he couldn't shake the feeling that if he left now, he'd never forgive himself. He pulled up the station's schematics on his computer. If there were slaves here, there had to be regular shipments of food and supplies, security patterns, guard rotations, maintenance schedules. All of this information was hidden in the station's routine operations data. He just had to find it. "Hold on," he whispered, thinking of the celestial woman. "I'm not leaving you here." As Marcus began scanning through the station's data, he knew he was about to risk everything. His ship, his license, maybe even his life. But sometimes in life, you had to take a stand. And seeing that poor woman's dim light had lit a fire in his heart that he couldn't ignore. Marcus spent 3 hours studying the station's data. His eyes were tired from staring at the screen, but he had learned some important things. The slave traders moved their cargo every 2 weeks, and the next ship was coming in just 3 days. If he wanted to help the celestial woman, he had to act fast. He watched through his ship's cameras as workers moved around the station. Every 4 hours, the guards changed shifts. During shift changes, there was a 10-minute gap in security coverage near the slave cells. It wasn't much time, but it might be enough. "First, I need to talk to her," Marcus muttered to himself. He pulled up the station's maintenance schedule and found what he was looking for. A broken air filter near the holding cells needed fixing. It was his way in. The next morning, Marcus dressed in a maintenance uniform he had in his ship. He carried a toolbox filled with basic repair tools and a small computer tablet hidden at the bottom. The guards at the security checkpoint barely looked at his forged work order. His heart was beating fast as he walked down the dim corridor to the cells. The same guard from yesterday was there, looking bored. "Maintenance," Marcus said, holding up his fake work order. "Got to fix the air filter." The guard grunted and waved him through. Marcus started working on the filter, but his real attention was on the cells. In daylight, the conditions looked even worse. The celestial woman was still there, sitting in the same corner. Her dim glow flickered slightly when she looked at him. As he worked, Marcus quietly took pictures with his hidden tablet. He needed evidence of what was happening here. He also noticed something interesting. The cell doors had old-style electronic locks. These were easier to hack than newer models. Suddenly, the celestial woman stood up and walked to the front of her cell. Her eyes met his, and Marcus felt a strange sensation in his mind. Like a gentle touch, he remembered that celestials could share emotions through their abilities. A series of feelings washed over him: fear, hope, and a question. She was asking if he was really there to help. Marcus gave a tiny nod while pretending to check his tools. Her glow brightened just a little. "What's taking so long?" The guard barked from his post. "Old system," Marcus called back. "Needs a complete cleaning." While he worked, Marcus learned more by watching. The guards brought food twice a day. The night guard often fell asleep at his post. The cameras in this section were old and had blind spots. Every piece of information could help with a rescue plan. He also noticed how the celestial woman helped others in nearby cells. When a young alien child was crying, she sang softly until it calmed down. When another prisoner looked sick, she shared her water with them. Even in her terrible situation, she showed kindness. Back in his ship that evening, Marcus spread out everything he had learned. The station's power system had a weak point. It relied on a single backup generator. If the main power went down, there would be 30 seconds before the backup kicked in. 30 seconds of darkness and confusion. But if he helped her escape, there would be no going back to his normal life. The slave traders would put a price on his head. He'd have to leave this part of space forever. His cargo business, which he built over 5 years, would be finished. Marcus looked at the pictures he'd taken of the cells, stopping at one showing the celestial woman's dim, bruised form. Then he thought of her gentle kindness to others, even in her suffering. Some things were more important than business. He pulled up the station's power system schematics and began planning. Tomorrow night, during the guard change, he would give this station a blackout it wouldn't forget. And in those 30 seconds of darkness, he would either save a life or lose everything trying. The time had come. Marcus checked his watch, 23:45 station time. In 15 minutes, the night shift change would begin. His hands were sweaty as he made final checks on his small computer device that would trigger the power outage. He had spent all day moving his ship to a different docking bay, closer to the slave cells. Every step had to be perfect. In his pocket, he carried a spare breathing mask for the celestial woman. If they had to run through damaged parts of the station, they would need them. Just breathing in and out, he whispered to himself, walking casually down the corridor. He wore the same maintenance uniform as yesterday, but this time his toolbox held lock-breaking tools and a small stun weapon. As he got closer to the cells, his heart nearly stopped. There were 2 guards instead of 1. This wasn't normal. Had they discovered his plan? "You again?" the scared guard from before asked. "What's wrong now?" Marcus forced himself to stay calm. "The air filter from yesterday is making strange noises. Better to fix it now than have it break completely." The guards looked at each other. Finally, the scared one nodded. "Make it quick." Marcus pretended to work on the filter while watching the guards from the corner of his eye. The celestial woman was awake, her dim glow pulsing slightly faster than normal. She could sense something was about to happen. 23:57. 3 minutes until shift change. Marcus pulled out his computer device, hiding it behind the toolbox. The guards were talking about their meal plans, not paying attention to him. 0:00. Right on time, Marcus heard footsteps. The next shift guards were coming. This was his only chance. His finger pressed the button. The station plunged into complete darkness. Emergency lights tried to come on but failed. Marcus had made sure of that. Shouts of surprise echoed through the corridors. Moving fast in the darkness, Marcus pulled out his lock-breaking tool. He had memorized the steps. 3 feet forward, turn left, reach up to where the cell lock would be. His hand shook as he connected the tool. A guard's flashlight beam cut through the darkness, but it was pointing the wrong way. "What's happening?" someone shouted. The lock clicked open. Marcus reached into the cell, his hand finding the celestial woman's arm. Her skin was cold, but her glow provided just enough light for him to see her face. "Come with me if you want to be free," he whispered. She didn't hesitate. Her hand gripped his tightly as they moved through the darkness. Behind them, more shouts and the sound of running feet filled the corridor. "Stop!" a voice yelled. A flashlight beam almost caught them as they turned a corner. The celestial woman stumbled, but Marcus held her up. 20 more steps to his ship. 15. 10. A guard appeared in front of them, but in the darkness, he was looking the wrong way. They reached the ship's airlock. Marcus's fingers flew over the keypad, entering his code. The door slid open with a soft hiss. "Get in," he said, pushing her gently inside. Just then, the station's backup power kicked in. Lights flickered on, and alarms began blaring. Marcus jumped inside, slamming his hand on the airlock close button. A laser shot hit the closing door, leaving a burn mark. "Hold on to something," he shouted, running to the pilot's seat. His fingers danced over the controls, starting the emergency launch sequence. The ship shuddered as it broke away from the docking clamps. More shots hit the ship's hull as they pulled away from the station. Marcus pushed the engines to full power, and the station quickly grew smaller behind them. Only when they were safely in open space did Marcus look at his passenger. The celestial woman was holding onto a wall handle, her glow brighter than he had ever seen it. Tears ran down her face, but she was smiling. They had made it. They were free. But Marcus knew this was just the beginning. Soon, the slave traders would send ships after them. They needed to get far away, and fast. As he set a course for the nearest safe jump point, he wondered what other challenges lay ahead for him and his unusual passenger. 3 days had passed since their escape from the station. Marcus sat in the pilot's seat, checking their course through the asteroid field he'd chosen as their hiding place. Behind him, he heard soft footsteps. The celestial woman was awake. "Are you hungry?" he asked, turning to face her. Her glow had gotten stronger each day, though it was still not as bright as a healthy celestial's should be. She nodded. They had discovered that while she understood English, speaking it was difficult for her. Celestials normally communicated through their empathic abilities and a musical language of their own, but they were learning to understand each other. Marcus went to the ship's small kitchen area and prepared 2 bowls of hot soup. It wasn't much, but it was better than the dry bread the slavers had fed her. As they ate, she pointed to herself and made a musical sound. "Lyra, Lyra," Marcus repeated, smiling. "I'm Marcus." He touched his chest, then pointed to her bowl. "Would you like more?" She shook her head, then reached out slowly and touched his hand. A gentle warmth spread through his mind, carrying feelings of gratitude and trust. Marcus had learned this was how celestials shared their deeper emotions. Suddenly, warning lights flashed on the ship's console. Marcus jumped up and ran to check. 2 ships had appeared on the radar, moving fast in their direction. "Slave traders," he muttered. "They found us." Lyra stood behind him, her glow dimming with fear. Marcus quickly started the engines, guiding their ship deeper into the asteroid field. The trading ships were bigger and faster, but his smaller ship could move better between the floating rocks. "Hold on tight," he said to Lyra, who quickly sat in the co-pilot's seat and strapped in. A large asteroid spun slowly in front of them. Marcus flew around it, then cut the engines. The trader ships passed by, looking for them in the wrong direction. He waited, holding his breath. Lyra's glow had dimmed to almost nothing, helping them stay hidden. When the ships were far enough away, Marcus started telling Lyra about himself to help her stay calm. He talked about growing up on Earth, losing his parents to space pirates, and how he became a cargo pilot. With each story, she would touch his hand lightly, sharing emotions that matched his words. Sadness for his losses, happiness for his successes. Then Lyra began sharing her own story through a mixture of simple words, gestures, and emotional touches. She had been a teacher on her home world, helping young Celestials learn to use their abilities. The slavers had attacked her ship while she was traveling to visit family. They had kept her captive for months, forcing her to use her empathic powers to calm other slaves. As she shared these memories, tears fell from her eyes, glowing softly like starlight. Marcus felt anger growing inside him at what the slavers had done to her. He promised himself he would keep her safe. The ship's radar beeped again. The trading ships were coming back, this time from a different direction. They weren't giving up. "We need to make a run for it," Marcus said. "The next safe port is 3 days away, but we have to try." Lyra touched his shoulder, sending him feelings of courage and trust. Then she did something unexpected. She kept her hand there. And suddenly Marcus felt his senses sharpen. He could almost feel where the asteroids were going to be before seeing them. He understood. She was using her empathic abilities to help him pilot better. Together, they might have a chance. "Ready?" he asked. Lyra nodded, her glow brightening with determination. As Marcus fired up the engines to full power, he realized something important. They weren't just running away anymore. They were running toward something new, something neither of them had expected to find in the cold darkness of space. The small cargo ship glided through space, its engines humming quietly. 5 days had passed since their daring escape through the asteroid field. Marcus and Lyra had lost the slave traders' ships, but they still couldn't relax completely. Marcus watched as Lyra stood by the ship's large window, her glow creating beautiful patterns on the glass. She was much stronger now, her natural light shifting between soft blues and gentle purples. She turned to him and smiled, pointing at a distant star. "Home?" Marcus asked. Lyra shook her head. Then, using the English words she had been practicing, she said slowly, "New home, with Marcus." Her words made his heart skip a beat. Over the past few days, they had grown closer than he ever expected. Lyra had been teaching him about her people's ways, showing him how Celestials shared their thoughts and feelings. "Would you like to learn more?" she asked in her musical accent, holding out her hand. Marcus nodded and took her hand. Immediately, warm colors flowed from her skin to his, and he felt himself entering what Lyra called the emotion space, a special way Celestials connected with others. In this shared space, Lyra could show him her memories more clearly. She showed him her home world, a beautiful planet with 2 moons where everything seemed to glow. He saw young Celestials learning from her, their lights changing colors as they practiced their abilities. Then she showed him something new, how she saw him. In her vision, Marcus glowed too, not with light like a Celestial, but with a warm, steady strength that had given her hope even in the dark cell where they first met. "I didn't know humans could look like that," Marcus said softly when the vision ended. Lyra's glow turned a soft pink, something Marcus had learned meant she was feeling shy. "Only special humans," she said. "Only you." Their moment was interrupted by a warning from the ship's computer. They were approaching the Earth security zone, the safe space they had been trying to reach. But something was wrong. "3 ships coming towards us," Marcus said, checking the radar. Not slave traders this time. Different design. Lyra's glow flickered with worry, but she stayed calm. Over the past days, she had learned to trust Marcus's piloting skills, especially when she helped him with her abilities. "Ready to work together again?" he asked, sitting in the pilot's seat. Instead of taking the co-pilot's chair like before, Lyra stood behind him and placed both hands on his shoulders. Her glow spread down his arms to his hands on the controls. Immediately, Marcus felt his senses sharpen in the now familiar way. The approaching ships sent a message. "Unidentified vessel, stop and prepare for inspection." "Pirates," Marcus said grimly. "They pretend to be security ships to catch people off guard." With Lyra's help, he could feel exactly how to move the ship. They flowed through space like water, dodging the pirates' attempts to trap them. When one ship fired a warning shot, Marcus spun their ship in a way that should have been impossible for a cargo vessel. The pirates weren't expecting such skilled flying. They fell behind as Marcus and Lyra worked together, their movements perfectly matched. It felt like dancing among the stars. Finally, they broke through to safe space. Real Earth security ships appeared on the radar, and the pirates quickly disappeared. As the danger passed, Lyra hugged Marcus from behind, her glow bright with joy and relief. The colors of her light painted the cockpit in beautiful patterns. "We make good team," she said in her improving English. "Yes, we do," Marcus agreed, reaching up to hold her hand. "Yes, we do." As they flew toward the safety of Earth's space stations, both of them knew that something special had grown between them. Something that went beyond rescuer and rescued, beyond human and celestial. Something that felt a lot like love. The Earth security station looked like a shining silver wheel in space. Marcus and Lyra sat in the interview room, facing three serious-looking officials. After their encounter with the pirates, they had been brought here for questioning. "So, you rescued her from slave traders?" the lead official asked, looking at his computer screen. His name tag read Commander Wilson. "Yes, sir," Marcus replied. Lyra sat close to him, her glow a nervous yellow color. She held his hand tightly. The female official smiled kindly at Lyra. "We've contacted the Celestial Embassy. They're sending someone to help you." Lyra's glow flickered with mixed emotions. She looked at Marcus, then spoke carefully in her improving English. "I stay with Marcus. He is my chosen." The officials looked surprised. The third one, a younger man, leaned forward. "Miss Lyra, are you sure? Your people have a protected community here on Earth. You'd be safe there." Marcus felt his heart beating fast. He hadn't expected this moment to come so soon. He wanted Lyra to stay with him, but he also wanted her to be safe and happy. Lyra stood up, her glow becoming stronger and more confident. She touched Marcus's shoulder, and suddenly everyone in the room could feel what she was feeling. Her trust in Marcus, her gratitude for his rescue, and something deeper, warmer. Love. The officials sat back, stunned by the emotional display. Commander Wilson cleared his throat. "Well, that's quite clear. But there's another problem." He pressed a button, and a hologram appeared above the table. It showed pictures of 3 slave trading ships. "We've tracked them entering Earth space. They're looking for you both." Marcus felt Lyra's hand tighten on his shoulder. Her glow dimmed slightly, but didn't fade completely like it used to when she was afraid. "We can protect you," the female official said, "but you'll need to help us catch them." Marcus and Lyra looked at each other. Without words, they knew what they had to do. Lyra nodded, and Marcus turned to the officials. "What's the plan?" The next 12 hours were busy. They moved Marcus's ship to a secret dock and made it look different. Earth security added hidden weapons and better shields. Lyra worked with their technical team, showing them how to detect the special devices the slavers used to dampen celestial abilities. As they prepared, Marcus found Lyra in their ship's cabin, looking at the stars through the window. "Are you sure about this?" he asked. "About staying with me? About helping with this mission?" Lyra turned to him, her glow a beautiful mix of blue and gold. She took his hands and shared her feelings. Marcus felt her certainty, her courage, and her love for him. "You saved me," she said softly. "Now we save others." She was right. They had a chance to stop the slavers from hurting more people, and they would do it together, using their special connection that made them stronger. The ship's computer announced that everything was ready. As they walked to the control room, Commander Wilson stopped them. "The slave traders' ships have been spotted," he said. "They're heading for a small trading station. We think they have more prisoners there." Marcus and Lyra took their positions in the ship. Like before, Lyra stood behind Marcus's pilot chair, her hands on his shoulders. Her glow spread down to his hands on the controls. "Ready?" Marcus asked. "Ready," Lyra replied, her voice strong and sure. As their ship launched into space, both of them knew this wasn't just about catching criminals anymore. It was about protecting others, about using their love to make the galaxy a better place. The stars stretched out before them, full of both danger and promise. But together, they weren't afraid. They were ready to face whatever came next. The trading station looked small and harmless, floating in the darkness of space. Marcus and Lyra's disguised ship approached slowly, pretending to be a regular cargo vessel. 3 Earth security ships waited nearby, hidden behind a small moon. "Remember the plan." Commander Wilson's voice came through their radio. "Find the prisoners first. We'll move in when you signal." Lyra's glow was dim, not from fear, but to help them stay hidden. She had been practicing this control. Her hand rested on Marcus's shoulder as they waited for permission to dock. "Incoming vessel, state your purpose," a rough voice called through the radio. Marcus spoke calmly, using the fake name they had prepared. "Captain Lee of the Star Runner, looking to refuel and maybe do some trading." There was a long pause. Marcus and Lyra held their breath. Finally, the voice returned. "Docking granted. Bay 3. As they guided the ship into the station, Lyra suddenly gasped. Her glow flickered with recognition. "What is it?" Marcus asked quietly. "Feel them," she whispered. "Many like me. In pain." She was right. As they stepped off their ship, Lyra could sense other Celestials nearby, their lights dampened by the slavers' technology. But there was something else too, something that made her stop walking. "Marcus," she said urgently, "it's trap." Before they could turn back, doors slammed shut around them. Heavy footsteps echoed in the corridor, and 6 armed men appeared. Leading them was a face Marcus recognized, the scared guard from the first station. "Welcome back," the scared man sneered. "We've been waiting for you." Marcus moved to protect Lyra, but she stepped forward instead. Her glow began to brighten, fighting against the dampening field. "You not hurt more people," she said firmly. The slavers laughed, but their laughter died as Lyra's glow grew stronger. She had learned much since her escape. The dampening field that once held her couldn't stop her now. "Shoot them," the scared man shouted. But Lyra was faster. She sent out a wave of energy that made the slavers stumble. In that moment, Marcus pulled out his hidden weapon, a special stunner designed by Earth security. The fight was quick but intense. Marcus stunned 2 guards, while Lyra used her abilities to confuse the others. The scared man tried to run, but Lyra touched his arm. He froze as she shared with him all the pain and fear he had caused others. "Security team now," Marcus called into his hidden radio. The station shook as Earth security ships docked. Within minutes, armed officers flooded the corridors. But Marcus and Lyra weren't waiting. They ran toward where Lyra sensed the prisoners. They found them in a dark hold, 20 Celestials and other aliens, all wearing dampening collars. As Marcus worked on the locks, Lyra moved among her people, sharing strength and hope through her touch. One young Celestial girl was crying. Lyra knelt beside her, glowing softly. "Safe now," she said gently. "Like me. I was prisoner too. But good humans saved me." She looked at Marcus with eyes full of love. "Now we save you." As Earth security officers led the freed prisoners to safety, Commander Wilson approached Marcus and Lyra. "Good work, both of you. We've arrested all the slavers. This operation is finished." But Lyra shook her head. "Not finished," she said. "Others still trapped. Other stations." Marcus took her hand, understanding what she meant. "We want to help find them," he told Wilson. "We work well together. We can help more people." Wilson looked at them thoughtfully. Their success today was proof of what a human and celestial could do together. Finally, he nodded. "I'll need to make some calls," he said, "but I think we can arrange something." Lyra's glow brightened with joy. She turned to Marcus, sharing her happiness through their touch. They had found their purpose together, not just in loving each other, but in helping others find freedom too. As they walked back to their ship, hand in hand, both knew that this wasn't the end of their story. It was just the beginning of a bigger adventure. 6 months had passed since the raid on the slave trading station. On a beautiful hill overlooking the Pacific Ocean, Marcus and Lyra stood together under an arch made of glowing celestial flowers. The sunset painted the sky in colors that matched Lyra's gentle glow. This was their wedding day, but it was more than just a ceremony. It was a celebration of two cultures coming together. Earth security officers stood with freed celestials, all watching as Marcus and Lyra prepared to say their vows. Lyra wore a traditional Earth white dress, but it sparkled with her natural light. Her glow was stronger and more beautiful than ever, shifting between colors of joy and love. Marcus couldn't take his eyes off her. "In the 6 months since we met," Marcus began his vows, "we've freed over 100 prisoners from slave traders. We've helped shut down 3 illegal trading stations, but the greatest freedom I found was the freedom to love you." Lyra smiled, happy tears glowing like tiny stars on her cheeks. She had practiced her vows in English for weeks. "Marcus," she said clearly, her musical accent making his name sound special. "On darkest day, you brought light. You showed me humans can have beautiful souls that glow like stars. My heart, my light, my life. I share with you forever." Then came the special part of the ceremony that mixed both their traditions. As the Earth Minister spoke traditional wedding words, Lyra began to glow brighter. She placed her hands on Marcus's shoulders, sharing her deepest feelings with him and everyone present. The whole gathering felt their love, pure, strong, and real. Even the Earth security officers, tough men and women who had seen much in space, wiped tears from their eyes. "I now pronounce you husband and wife," the minister said. But before he could say more, Lyra pulled Marcus into a kiss. Her glow burst into brilliant colors, creating a light show that made the sunset look pale. At the reception, Commander Wilson raised a glass to toast them. "When these two first came to us, we weren't sure what to think. Now they lead our best rescue team. They've shown us that love isn't just about feelings. It's about making the galaxy better together." The young celestial girl they had rescued in their first raid ran up to hug them. She was healthy now, her glow bright and happy. "Will you still help others now that you're married?" she asked. "Of course," Lyra answered, while Marcus nodded. "But first, we have a honeymoon," Marcus finished. He pulled out a small hologram projector and showed the girl an image of their destination, a beautiful resort on one of Jupiter's moons. Later that night, as their guests danced and celebrated, Marcus and Lyra stood together looking at the stars. Their ship waited in orbit, ready to take them on their honeymoon tomorrow. But they knew that after their vacation, they would be back out there, working together to help others. "Happy?" Marcus asked, holding his new wife close. Lyra answered by sharing her feelings through their touch. Marcus felt her joy, her love, and her excitement for their future together. Her English was much better now, but some things were still best said through celestial ways. "Very happy," she said out loud, then added with a smile, "My dear husband." As the party continued below, they shared another kiss under the stars. Their story had started in darkness, a slave cell on a distant station, but it had led them here, to light and love, and a shared purpose. They knew there would be more adventures ahead, more people to save, more challenges to face, but they would face them together, their love making them stronger, a human and a celestial, showing the galaxy that sometimes the most beautiful things come from the most unexpected meetings. And as the stars twinkled above them, their future stretched out before them, as bright and endless as space itself.